بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أهلا ومرحبا بكم في هذه الدورة التدريبية. معكم المهندس محمد عبد الحليم قنديل، استشاري إدارة الأصول والموثوقية، وهذا هو البرنامج التدريبي المتخصص للحصول على شهادة مهندس الموثوقية المعتمد CRE. تبدأ المحاضرات في الأول من أغسطس بواقع محاضرة أسبوعيا يوم السبت من كل أسبوع ولمدة 10 أسابيع. تؤهلك المحاضرات مع نماذج الاختبارات إلى اجتياز اختبار الحصول على شهادة مهندس موثوقية معتمد.
Welcome back to The Explainer. I am really glad you're here. Listen, if you're a focused engineering professional, a quality assurance manager, or maybe a corporate executive looking to seriously upgrade your operational strategy, you have landed in exactly the right place. Over my decades in this industry, I've seen countless corporate initiatives come and go, but the core principles we are covering today, they are the absolute bedrock of long-term corporate survival. Today, we are taking a masterclass journey into the ASQ Certified Reliability Engineer, or CRE designation. And we aren't just going to look at dry formulas, all right? We're going to look at exactly how these concepts protect your bottom line. All right, let's jump right in. A lot of folks out there mistakenly think reliability engineering is just about, running basic maintenance tasks or tracking equipment downtime. It's really not. This certification represents a crucial strategic asset for literally any organization. It's the actual science of predicting corporate performance and guaranteeing product safety. When you finally get a CRE on your team, you move way beyond reactive firefighting and step right into the realm of predictive, profitable engineering. So, what exactly is a CRE? Formally, it's defined as a professional who understands the principles of performance evaluation and prediction to improve product and system safety, reliability, and maintainability. We are speaking directly to you professionals working in design and development, reliability testing, quality assurance, maintenance, and, this is critical, warranty data analysis. If you are the one analyzing warranty data, you are directly impacting major corporate growth metrics. You're the one stopping the financial bleed of product recalls. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start by defining the CRE role, look at the pillars of dependability, compare quality versus reliability, break down the bathtub curve strategy, review the CRE experience and knowledge requirements, and finally, go over test day logistics.
Okay, Section 1, defining the CRE role.
When we talk about dependability, specifically according to the ISO 9004 standard, it isn't just some vague corporate buzzword. It's a structural block, and it is entirely supported by 3 distinct pillars: reliability, maintainability, and availability. Think about it. If your system is highly reliable but takes 6 whole months to repair, meaning it has poor maintainability, well, it's not dependable. On the flip side, if it's super easy to fix but it breaks every 2 hours, it's still not dependable. A CRE fundamentally understands how to balance all 3 of these blocks to ensure the system is always ready the exact moment the customer needs it.
Moving on to Section 2, pillars of dependability. Listen, reliability is never an accident. It is absolutely a designed-in characteristic. A formal reliability statement has to stand on 4 distinct pillars: probability, time, function, and conditions. If you walk into a boardroom and tell an executive, hey, our pump is highly reliable, that means absolutely nothing to them. But if you say our pump has a 99% probability of functioning at full capacity for 10,000 hours in a deep-sea high-pressure environment, boom, now you are speaking the language of a true CRE. Which brings us to this incredibly powerful yet surprisingly simple equation derived from those pillars. R of T equals the survival function. Reliability over time is quite literally the mathematical function of survival. From a high-level corporate standpoint, this is your product's ability to actually survive its warranty period. It is the absolute difference between celebrating a highly profitable quarter and getting devastated by a wave of warranty claims.
That takes us to Section 3, quality versus reliability.
Think about a massive corporate car manufacturer for a second. Quality is totally focused on a single point in time, right? It's about reducing manufacturing variance so that when the customer buys that car, the doors close properly and the engine turns over. It's a safe car right at the point of purchase. Reliability, however, is focused across the entire lifetime of that vehicle. It's about maintaining that original quality over time. Reliability is that exact same car operating safely, meeting emission standards, and saving the customer fuel for several years, all without triggering a multi-million-dollar corporate recall. Put simply, quality gets the car off the lot, reliability keeps your brand's reputation intact for a decade.
Now, to sustain these assets, we really have to contrast reliability with maintenance. Reliability is highly strategic. It's baked and designed right into the asset to reduce the sheer need for maintenance in the first place. Maintenance, on the other hand, is the tactical, physical act of keeping the asset running. It's the day-to-day turning of wrenches to keep your equipment operational.
I'm going to repeat a golden rule here, something every single executive needs plastered on their wall to truly understand their operational budgets. Ready? Maintenance does not improve reliability. It just sustains it. You literally cannot wrench your way to a better design. If a system has a fundamental design flaw, doing preventative maintenance twice as often isn't going to magically make it a reliable system. It just makes it an incredibly expensive system to sustain.
So when we compare the actual job roles, the certified reliability engineer focuses heavily on growth metrics. They analyze failure data to optimize warranty costs and warranty periods. They're the ones making the big strategic calls for complete product redesigns and establishing the optimal preventative replacement times. The certified maintenance engineer, by contrast, executes the ground tactics. They're evaluating the effectiveness of that preventative maintenance, monitoring equipment condition, and doing the physical failed part analysis. Essentially, the CRE designs the battle plan, and the CME executes the ground tactics.
All right, Section 4, the bathtub curve strategy.
So, ask yourself this question. If you are managing a massive fleet of delivery trucks or manufacturing thousands of consumer electronics, how do you mathematically map out when things are going to break so you can protect your bottom line? You need a rock-solid, reliable model. Enter the famous bathtub curve strategy. It maps the failure rate of a product over its entire lifetime. On the far left, we have the early failure phase, often called infant mortality. Failures are high here, but they're dropping fast. The engineer's intervention is tighter process control in manufacturing to shorten this phase and flatten the slope out. Then we hit that long, flat bottom, useful life. Here, failures are random and constant. The engineer's tool here is deeply analyzing data to drive redesigns that lower that constant failure rate even further. Finally, the curve shoots right back up into the wear-out phase. The asset is dying. The strategic intervention now? Aggressive preventative maintenance and scheduled replacement to delay the onset of those wear-out failures. Mastering this curve is literally how you master your lifecycle costs.
Moving right along to Section 5, CRE experience and knowledge.
So you want the certification. ASQ requires a foundation of real-world experience, establishing a baseline of 8 solid years in a relevant field. But here is how you calculate your specific eligibility based on your education. If you hold a technical diploma, they waive 1 year, so you only need 7. Got an associate's degree? They waive 2 years, leaving you with 6. A bachelor's degree waives 4 full years. And get this, with a master's or PhD, they waive 5 full years, meaning you only need 3 years of on-the-job experience to qualify to sit for the exam. Let's talk about the exam itself. The body of knowledge is made up of 165 total questions. 150 are scored, 15 are unscored. The heavy weighting strongly targets your predictive capabilities. You're looking at 35 questions on probability and statistics, and another 35 just on planning, testing, and modeling. That right there is the core of your operational strategy. Then you've got 30 questions on lifecycle reliability and 25 each for risk management and reliability fundamentals. It is a rigorously balanced test of both hardcore math and high-level management.
And finally, Section 6, Test Day Logistics.
Listen, exam day is a marathon, not a sprint. The total time for the exam is 4.5 hours. With 165 questions, that means you have a very strict rhythm to maintain. Exactly 1.64 minutes per question. You simply cannot afford to get bogged down. Furthermore, you have got to bring a standard, basic scientific calculator. It has to be silent, handheld, and battery operated. And please heed this primary warning. Absolutely no programmable memory calculators are permitted. 0 exceptions. If you bring one, they won't let you use it, and trying to do advanced survival functions in your head is a surefire way to fail. Come prepared and manage your time relentlessly.
All right, that wraps up our explainer for today. But before you go, I want to leave you with a provocative thought. Really look at your own corporate operations. Look at the products you're putting out into the market. Are your systems truly designed to survive their life cycle? Or are they just sitting out there, bleeding your budget dry, just waiting to be maintained? If you are ready to stop reacting and finally start predicting, it is time to optimize your corporate systems and officially pursue your CRE certification. Thanks for hanging out with me. Keep designing for dependability, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.
This lecture is prepared by Engineer Mohammed Kandil of the RCM Academy. We are beginning CRE Lecture 2, Probability and Statistics for Reliability. Within the Certified Reliability Engineer Journey Map, this module represents the transition from basic concepts into hard predictive mathematics. Reliability engineering relies on converting historical failure data into mathematical models that allow us to anticipate physical breakdowns. This data translation supports 3 applications. First, maintenance optimization, identifying the timing for repairs and parts. Second, we feed probabilities into risk assessment tools to map failure pathways. Finally, we apply this to design for reliability, ensuring materials withstand operational stress. Applying these mathematical models enables an engineer to oversee the entire system lifecycle, replacing reactive repairs with a rigorous predictive strategy. To build a model, we must establish the scope of our data. This diagram shows the distinction between a population and a sample. Testing an entire industrial population is usually impossible. Instead, engineers use random or stratified sampling to estimate the parameters. Once a sample is drawn, we locate the center of the data using 3 metrics: the mean, or arithmetic average, the median, which is the middle value, and the mode, the most frequent value. While the average failure time is a useful starting point, it is insufficient for reliability without knowing how the data spreads. We measure dispersion using standard deviation for the spread, variance for combined stresses, and the coefficient of variation to compare populations. The bottom case study shows these in practice, yielding a mean of 65.8 hours and a sample standard deviation of 39.6 hours. All of these metrics of central tendency and dispersion are the raw materials required to construct a predictive model. With the data defined, we turn to probability. This is a value between 0 for an impossible event and 1 for a certainty. These diagrams illustrate the core conditions of probability: independent, dependent, mutually exclusive, and complement events. These probability conditions dictate how we analyze the physical architecture of industrial hardware. The OR rule applies to series components. If robotic arm A or B failing causes a shutdown, we combine probabilities and subtract the intersection. Conversely, the AND rule applies to parallel systems. The chance of components failing together is their product, drastically reducing risk. The physical layout of an industrial system dictates exactly which probability law an engineer must use to assess risk. To handle different scenarios, engineers use specialized probability distributions. This matrix shows 3 models used for counting whole numbers of distinct failure events. The binomial distribution is applied when failure probability remains constant across a set number of trials, with only 2 possible outcomes, success or failure. This is used for planning spares. In a 10-component system with a 10% failure rate, we map cumulative confidence. 0 spares gives 34%, and 1 gives 73%. To guarantee 98% confidence, the math proves you must stock exactly 3 spares. The Poisson distribution is used for predicting rare events across massive sample sizes. In a Poisson distribution, the variance perfectly equals the mean. The spread of the data is fixed to the average occurrence rate. For a lot of 2,000 pieces with a failure rate of 0.001, we expect a mean of 2 failures. The Poisson table shows the probability of exactly 3 failures occurring is 18.04%. Correctly identifying the distribution is critical. Misapplying these tools results in either understocking critical components or wasting the maintenance budget. Some quality control challenges involve testing that removes a component from the pool, which changes the probability for every subsequent draw. This requires the hypergeometric distribution, used for sampling without replacement when the sample size exceeds 10% of the lot. In a 50-piece lot containing 4 defective units, pulling a sample of 8 results in a 39.87% probability of finding exactly 1 defective part. Whether counting spares, rare errors, or inspecting lots, these 3 discrete distributions form the toolkit for managing failure counts. Measuring the exact time a component will survive requires a fundamental shift from counting parts to continuous mathematics. As we reduce the category size in a failure histogram, the jagged blocks transform into a smooth predictive curve. This curve is the probability density function, which defines the mathematical shape of failure behavior over time. This leads to the reliability triad. The cumulative distribution function, f of t, measures the probability that a component has failed by a specific time. The reliability function, R of t, measures the remaining area, representing the probability of survival. Survival and failure are inextricably linked by a governing equation. The probability of failure plus the reliability always equals 1. We apply this to the exponential distribution, used when a component's failure rate remains constant. Here, the failure rate, lambda, is the inverse of the mean time to failure, or MTTF. Consequently, exactly 63.2% of components will fail before reaching their expected MTTF. For components currently in operation, we use conditional reliability to calculate survival probability, given that the part has already survived a certain duration. By dividing the reliability at a future time by the reliability at the current time, we can determine, for example, that a component has a 95.12% chance of reaching 150 hours, specifically because it reached 100 hours. Statistics provides the framework to quantify industrial randomness, allowing for the precise management of system performance and failure.